are not familiar with Yin Yoga, it is a style of yoga which is very introspective, very contemplative. It's almost like a meditation while you're holding a yoga pose. So I like to think of it that way. We're going to be combining the yoga postures with some self-acupressure points today, which makes this practice even more powerful. And we're going to particularly be focused on Yin Yoga poses and acupressure points that are geared toward emotional well-being. So we're all dealing with a lot of emotions at this time in our lives. Things like worry, fear, anxiety, sadness, grief, the list goes on. And according to the principles of Chinese medicine, which is very closely linked toward the practices of Yin Yoga in some traditions, certain areas of our body can get stagnant, right? So the energy is not flowing through those pathways the way it should be. And then we might start to get a little tenderness in those areas, stagnant energy, and we'll be able to tell when we press on different points in our bodies when there is particular tenderness that might be kind of accumulated energy there that's not flowing through. So when we press on a point, for example, there'll be one in the center of our palm, we want to hold the point for probably a minute, minute and a half. I'll be using little timers. And when we release the point, we want to do so slowly, right? So that slowness just allows that energy to start to move so we're not kind of shocking the system. So the idea is when we press on a point, it's almost like you can think of like a garden hose. We kink that garden hose, the pressure, it starts to build up, right? And then when we slowly release it, that flow can start to go through that point. So there are various pathways in the body that are associated with our organs. For example, we have our liver meridian, our kidney meridians, lung and heart. I'll be talking about these things throughout the practice that correspond with particular emotions. So for example, our heart and chest area, the lung and heart meridians, can be associated with those feelings of grief and sadness. And our liver, maybe this is something you've heard before, associated with those emotions of anger and frustration. So as we hold the poses, some of them will include acupressure points. Other poses will just be coming into the pose, and the pose itself is like an acupressure point because we'll be pressing on compressing different parts of the body, and when we come out of those poses, then that energy again can flow through. So there are different ways that we can move energy. One of them I just talked about, that pressure and release. Movement in our body. We won't be doing so much movement today, a little bit. Touch, right? So we're going to use that method. And also thought can change energy. So we can manage our thoughts while we're doing these postures, and that'll help us create that sense of emotional well-being. So we're going to work with all of those. We're going to be starting on our backs in a moment. Some props are useful but not absolutely necessary for Yin Yoga. To start out, I would recommend having something for under your head, a pillow or a blanket. And then 2 additional folded blankets are going to go under our knees in our opening posture. You can also use your blocks. If you have blocks, pillow cushions, whatever you have around would be fine, just so there's not so much strain on our knees and our hips and our inner thighs. So those are useful. You might want a bolster. I have a bolster here. Again, it's for support. It's not absolutely necessary. So if you have one, certainly have that available in case you wish to pull that in for support in these postures. We can also just work with our own bodies. So no worries if you don't have those things. Those of you who might want to do a little bit more research on this topic, I'll share a few resources. This one's called Awaken Yoga. This is one of my favorites. I've been studying this book for many years. So it'll get a little bit more detailed about where the points are. It shows you these pathways of the body. And in the back, there are even specific recommendations. For example, neck tension, nervous problems, pelvic problems. You can look up and apply some of these points. So this is a really interesting one. And then this is also by the same author, Acupressure Potent Points, a guide to self-care for common ailments. Again, if you've got a headache, you've got the flu or something, you can look up points to work on yourself. So I just wanted to share those with you as well. Okay, so we're going to come into our first posture in a moment. We're going to take a few moments to breathe in a reclined butterfly bound angle type pose. And then we're going to do a little gentle movement with some acupressure points. So these first 2 points, I just want to show you because I'm going to be on my back demonstrating. So you're going to find in the back of your head, your hairline, which is also called the occipital ridge, so right around the hairline. There's going to be a point right in the center that we're going to use, and then also a point on either side. So the thumbs can go right in the center, and then you'll kind of go over a little ropey ridge, like a little muscular ridge, off to the side about a ½ inch. Those are gallbladder points, so we'll be working with those. We're going to actually work with the 2 on the side first, and then the 1 in the middle second. So I just want you to kind of get a little visual of where those points are before we come onto our backs. So getting everything set up. A pillow from your head is going to be useful for part of the practice, and then either pillows, blocks, or blankets for under your knees. Okay. So we're going to set up with these. I have 2 blankets that are rolled up from the short side to make a little log. But again, you can use household cushions. And we're going to put the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. And again, we're going to eventually do these gallbladder points, but we're also opening up a channel of energy here, kidney meridian, from our kind of the soles of the feet through the arches and up through the legs and up through the chest to the collarbones. So even without the acupressure points, we're creating some change in the body. So when you're ready, you can go ahead and ease down and pull the blanket in so it's under your head but not under your shoulders. And if this is not supportive enough, you could even put the block underneath the blanket, and then you'll have more support. So make sure that it feels comfortable for you. And if for any reason, of course, if anything's not working for you, feel free to modify to your ability. You can always take the legs out straight if needed. So take care of your body, all right? So we're going to come down and relax your hands wherever you're comfortable and settle in to your back body. Starting some nice, slow, deep breaths. Beginning to allow that breath to be a little lower in the body rather than up in our chest. So nice belly breathing. Let's see if we can also bring that breath into the back. So in the area of our kidneys and adrenals, 3-dimensional. I also like to visualize that the breath coming in through the navel and expanding out into the ribs and the lower back. We're going to stay here for another minute or two, just continuing to focus to share some information, but you're going to stay where you are, continuing to focus on your breath. So in a moment, we're going to be working on these gallbladder points on either side of the base of the skull. This is a point called Feng Qi. In the soft depressions just to the sides of the thick tendons of our trapezius muscle. It's an area that we often will rub ourselves when we're feeling strain in our neck or we have a headache. This point is very helpful. These 2 points helpful for common cold, congestion, headache, rigidity in the back of the neck, limitation in our shoulder, as well as good for dizziness, vertigo, and nice points for like indecisiveness. We're just feeling like we can't make decisions. Helps clear the head, benefits our eyes, calms the liver yang, so that anger, so you can calm that and can relieve pain. So go ahead and take a few more moments here. Just focusing on the flow of the breath in and out through your nose if you can. Our second point is called Governing Vessel 16. It's good for things that are associated with excess air element, so it can be really calming for things like anxiety and insomnia. It helps clear our mind, clear our consciousness. Said to moisten our throat, benefits our neck and our spine. It's just a little drop off of the back ridge of your skull, just right down in that center point and the soft tissue of the neck. So we'll get there in a moment. Okay, so last 3 cycles of breath here. After your 3rd breath, go ahead and just take your time. We're going to remove our head blanket because we're going to be doing some gentle movements here. So some of these movements aren't traditional yin because we'll be doing some movement, but most of the practice is going to be very still. We're just going to do a little gentle movement here as a warm-up. So we're going to take our thumbs on the back of that ridge. So feel the kind of the bump of the back of your skull. Slide your fingers slightly down there along the hairline. Find the center point, which is that governing vessel point, and then slide your thumbs, go over that slight ridge, and then there's a little depression on either side. So a lot of these acupressure points are in slight depressions, and that's where that stagnation can accumulate. So we're going to hold those 2 points on either side of our cervical spine in the little depressions right outside of the ridge of our trapezius muscle that connects our skull to our torso. Now you might already notice that there's tenderness there. You can kind of feel around a little bit until you get that sensation of tenderness, and you might not find it, that's okay. We're going to do a reclined cat-cow while we hold these points, keeping the legs as they are. So as you inhale, we're going to lift into the diaphragm. Press the elbows and the shoulders down and expand out through the legs a bit. And then as you exhale, we're going to curl up. So we're going to curl up, lifting the tailbone toward the head, rounding the spine. And now repeat. Inhale, arch, press the elbows down, lift into the diaphragm area, and then exhale, curl up. Now I'm still holding those points while I do this. Big inhale, round, lift the tailbone as you come up. We're going to do 2 more. And 1 more time. Now we'll slowly come back down. And then remember, we're going to release those points slow motion. So slowly start to release the pressure of your thumbs and let your arms come down at your side. And visualize that energy is now flowing through those points on the back of your neck. From here, we're going to step our feet flat, and you can slide those 2 blankets out of the way. Take your feet as wide as your mat. We're going to do some windshield wipers while we hold the center point, that governing vessel point. So coming back, your thumbs are going to meet right along that hairline. Center of the occipital ridge, kind of pressing inward there. Again, there might be tenderness in some of these spots. And you're going to keep your head still this time as you windshield wiper your legs side to side. Now, if it's okay for you, you could always close your eyes while you do these movements and practices so that you can have an inner focus. You can notice sensations where you're pressing that point, maybe in your legs as you move. Let's try a few more. Remember, moving slowly. So we don't want to shock our system. All of these movements are done slowly. Even as we come in and out of a yin pose, we want to move slowly. Yin is, of course, the counterpart to yang. Yang is referring to more active styles of yoga in this case. Now, our thumbs are getting tired probably. Let's come back up and slowly release those points. And let your arms come down. Breathe and just feel a flow of energy through that area in the back of the neck. Always a moment of stillness after releasing these points. All right, so we're going to come up now to a seated posture. So I'm going to roll over to one side and very slowly press myself up. Again, I'm not going to rush the process of coming up to sit. And then find something to help you be comfortable to sit. I'm going to be here a little bit. So I'm going to pull in my little meditation cushion. You could sit on your bolster. You could sit on some folded blankets, whatever works for you. All right, so go ahead and just let your hands rest down. Sit up nice and tall. Perhaps closing the eyes or finding a steady drishti gazing point for a moment. And reorient now to vertical shape. Breathing in and breathing out. Letting the shoulders soften. Let's see if we can find a softness in the jaw. So unhinge your jaw. Let your eyes soften inward, as if they were retracting back from your eye sockets. Let's take about 3 more breaths, just like this. So our next point is going to be a pericardium point. In the center of our palm. This is a yin meridian that is said to help calm our spirit. We feel all amped up and we're just really can't settle our mind and our bodies down. Maybe we're anxious. This is going to help calm the spirit, the Shen, as we call it in this tradition. So I'm going to be using a timer. We're going to do each hand for 1 minute. So I'd like you to locate the center of your palm. And with the acupressure points, don't stress if you're not exact. It's not as big of a deal as if we were putting a needle in. We'd want to be very precise. But with our thumbs, it's a bigger area that we're going to cover. So we can just press into the center of our palms. And then let's put the hands right in front of the heart space. Pericardium is what surrounds our heart, protects our heart. So I'm going to start our timer. Again, close your eyes. Focus on sensation, breathe. Let your shoulders stay soft, face soft. So as much as possible, be in Shavasana, no matter what our shape is, because a yin practice is very passive, meaning we're not engaging muscles, we're trying to stay as soft and relaxed as possible. Now with the acupressure points, there'll be an element of exertion, but we don't want to create unnecessary tension. So soft breath, calming the spirit, settling our anxieties. One more breath. And then very slowly release the point and rest the hands down for a pause. Really let this practice be nourishing on many levels. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. So now let's start the other point. So now take your other palm, press your thumb into your palm, rest your hands at your heart space, close the eyes, and breathe. Pressing on pericardium 8 point here. Notice if you start to accumulate any unnecessary tension in your face, in your brow, shoulders. We're doing one more breath here. And then we're going to very slowly release the point and relax your arms down. Let's turn the palms up and just visualize a flow of energy from the center of your palms all the way through your arms to your heart. Right, we're going to switch our legs. So just change the crossing so we're nice and even. The next point is a large intestine point, large intestine 4. It's the place between our thumb and our index finger. So what we're going to do is take our opposite hand and kind of clamp. So just slide your opposite thumb in and just hold on to that point. I'm going to turn the timer over and you're going to press and hold. And this could be, so maybe we're the area of your solar plexus here. Or you can even relax the arms down a little bit more. So breathing here, a large intestine is associated with letting go, right? So it's an organ of elimination. So it'll help us release negativity. It'll help us release anything that is no longer serving us. What do we want to release? So here's where we bring in the power of thought. So we've got the pressure, we've got touch, and for another breath. And then we're going to slowly let the point go. Relax your arms for a moment. If you need to, you can always shake out your hands if you get any tension in your hands. And then switch sides. You're going to clamp down on the other side. Press between the thumb and the index finger. And then we'll hold for 1 more minute. And as we do this practice today, notice which of these points are more tender for you. And then think about what your state of mind has been over the last couple of weeks. And see if there's a correlation between these tender spots and what you've been experiencing. Slow, steady breath. We've got 1 more breath cycle here. And then we'll slowly let go. Maybe wiggle those fingers out and release. And maybe again, palms up. Feeling that nice flow of energy in your hands. Great. The next one is called a mind clearing pose. We're going to be stimulating multiple meridian points while we do this pose. We're going to hold this one a little bit longer. We're going to go for a 3-minute hold. If you feel like you want to change your legs back to whatever side is most comfortable for you, feel free. Maybe rock your sit bones apart. We're going to come into a slight forward fold. So, couple things here. We're going to be putting our thumbs in our jaw muscles. So go ahead and clench your jaw. When you clench your jaw, have your hands on the side of your jaw and see if you can feel the muscle pop out. That's where our thumbs are going to go. Right where that jaw muscle pops out, close to your profile here. The other fingers are going to go on your forehead toward the front. So get that. And then we're going to fold and put the elbows on the insides of our knees. So you're going to hold that for your 3 minutes if you can. Now, if you can't do all of it, you could maybe just do the elbows and skip the other part. Or you can just do the jaw and the forehead and not forward fold. That's another option, okay? So while you're here, you're gonna maybe move your elbows and see if you can find a tender spot on the inner knee. That's a spleen point. The forehead is additional gallbladder points. And then the jaw is the stomach points. Okay, so we'll be hitting a variety of these in the same meridian channels, depending on the pose. So our gallbladder, again, we talked about. Stomach, with our protruding jaw muscle, we're pressing in there, can relate to worry, pensiveness, just rumination, which maybe we're all doing a lot of right now. And then our spleen points also related to that. So worry, again, rumination, but also this idea of what nourishes us is related to the stomach spleen meridian. Are we looking outside of ourselves for things to fill us up? Or can we find that nourishment for ourselves from the inside out? Sometimes when we're really deficient in the spleen stomach, we're very needy, we're wanting reassurance from other people on a kind of more serious basis, more than what is kind of what's normal. So we might be like constantly wanting that reassurance, or maybe we're engaging in a lot of eating. So the food sometimes can be a substitute for what can truly nourish us. So allow this posture and your breath to to be what nourishes you. Let go of worry. Let go of rumination, obsessive thinking. Allow it to release. We've got just about maybe 2 more breaths here. Trying to be as still as you can as you're holding the pose. So again, elbows are down, thumbs in the jaw, fingers on the forehead. Last breath. And then we're going to very slowly start to release the points and come up for a pause. Great. So the next one we're going to do is called melting heart posture. I'm going to need 2 blocks to do this one if possible. If you don't have blocks, you can certainly do this pose without them, but it's helpful to keep our arm bones elevated so we don't collapse into our shoulders. So the melting heart is, again, related to overexcitement, our heart not resting, our spirit being really agitated. This is a pose that can help bring in contentment. The heart meridian goes from the center of our armpit all the way to our little finger. So when we do this posture, we're activating that channel of energy. So we're going to come onto our knees. So if you have a hard surface, I would say put a blanket down for your knees. Just adjusting this. And then your 2 blocks are going to go in front of you. I'm going to kneel on the blanket. And ideally, I want to keep hips over the knees. They might shift back a little bit. That's okay. And then my arms are going to go over top of these blocks. And you want the blocks to kind of land about your mid forearm. And then the head is going to come down. Now the head might rest right on the blocks. It might go inside the blocks. Your fingers can be in a little tent. So they're a little more active to keep our arms engaged so we don't hang in our shoulder joints. Now if it feels okay for you, you can let the palms relax a little bit more. You could even shift back a bit so the head would come to the floor. Now some of us, it's going to feel better head on the block, some of us on the floor. Maybe walk your knees back a little bit. So I'm going to come out so it's easier for me to talk, but I want you to stay in that pose. We're going to just do 1 more minute for this one because you've probably already been there a little bit. Stay with your breath and try to be as still as possible while you hold this posture. Continue to breathe. And continue to think about contentment, emotional contentment. What brings you that sense of peace and contentment? So you can allow the mind to be focused on the practice. Maybe what we're focusing on, this idea of contentment, but not getting wrapped up in an additional train of thought. So keep reining the thought process back in. Present moment to the breath. You've got 1 more breath. Great. And then we're going to slowly start to come up out of this pose. You can start to come onto maybe all 4s, and we're going to move the blocks out of the way. So next posture is Sphinx pose, one of my favorites. You guys know that. So I'm going to remove the blanket, and Ideally, elbows under the shoulders or even slightly forward. I'm gonna kind of just wiggle my legs out so I feel loose in my low back, stay loose in my lower body. My head might rest on a block, any level, or I could let my head be passive here. Let my head drop, or I can keep it slightly elevated. So I encourage you to choose a position that feels best for you. So again, I'm going to come out of it so I can set our timer. We're going to go 3 minutes on this one, holding your Sphinx posture. So here again, we have stomach and spleen meridian, worry, neediness, overthinking. The spleen meridian goes from our toes, inside of our legs, and up toward the armpit. The stomach meridian goes from under our eyes, down our cheek and neck, into our chest, our belly, our legs, and our toes. Basically, the whole front of the body is the flow of the stomach meridian. Start to now relax into your upper body and let your spine start to sink into your body. Just let it sink toward the floor, getting more and more passive in that upper body. Now, if you feel any compression in your lower back, you could try toning your belly. You could also try pressing more into your arms. So adding a little yang component can help us not feel so much compression. However, that compression, as long as it's not painful, is beneficial in this case of a yin posture, because that is part of our kidney meridian in the back, which we'll talk more about later. But that's getting some compression as well as the stimulation along the front line of the body. Now, those of you who are feeling pretty good and want to take this a step further could pop up into seal posture for the last few breaths. So seal posture, we're going to straighten the arms. And we're getting more of that stretch on the front of the belly. Maybe you could look up for a few breaths. Try not to just drop your head, but lengthen. And then we've got another breath or two here. Certainly stay in Sphinx if that's better for you. You could also play with the position of your hands. I like to go deeper, so I'm going to go back even farther. And that'll lift me taller into that back bend. But I'm not trying to effort too much. My arms are just holding me up like tent poles here. One more breath. And then I'm going to slowly come back down and just rest my forehead on my hands. Give your low back a little wiggle just to release any accumulated tension there. And let's hold on our bellies for another breath or two. So finding that place of stillness in between the postures. We'll get back to some acupressure points again later, but for now, these are postures that are doing the work just by the position of our bodies. Next posture is going to work on our lung meridian. The lung meridian, as I mentioned earlier, has to do with sadness and grief. So it's this whole area here. So we're going to do a belly down shoulder opener. So it goes from under our collarbone all the way to our thumb. Some of you might wish to have a blanket to support your head, okay, or a pillow. To do this posture, you're still on your belly. You can start to come up now, maybe even look up for a moment to watch what I'm doing. I'm going to take my arms out to a T. Bring my right hand underneath my shoulder. So I'm going to just mirror you for this. And I'm going to start to roll toward my left side. Now here's where I might want a blanket for underneath my head. I will show that. Okay, if you don't need it, that's fine. I'm gonna maybe take this top leg behind me. That's gonna increase the sensation. More gentle is gonna be to just stack the legs. Taking it behind is gonna increase the sensation. If I'm still looking for more, I could bend this knee and set the foot flat. And then if I'm still looking for more, I could take this top arm and wrap it behind my back. So those are the stages. You pick what's best for your body today, and then close your eyes. I'm gonna start our timer. We're gonna do 3 minutes per side on this one. So even though I'm kind of dictating how long we stay in the posture, you are welcome to come out at any time if you need to. And when you come out, you're just gonna rest in neutral, okay? If you're okay, stay with it. Some of these are gonna be shorter holds, some of them are gonna be longer holds. Something that's very important is that we don't push ourselves into the deepest expression of the pose. Instead, we want to start out mild, where we're just feeling a little sensation. Because as you might be noticing, as you stay in it, those sensations can increase. So start mild, and gradually the body loosens up, softens up, so that maybe we could deepen now. Maybe we could take that leg behind us if things have started to ease up. So continue breathing. We're over halfway there on side one. What we're doing is stimulating the lines of fascia, right? So there's fascia that's going from that area of the chest out through the arm, out through the fingertips. So we can feel when we stretch through our fingertips that tissue is also releasing from in the center of the chest. And when we work along these different fascial lines, we start to open up any areas of stagnant energy, allowing there to be more free flow from our chest through our hands. Last few breaths. Really surrender into the posture. Try not to effort too much. So let it be soft. Let there be a releasing into the earth. We're going to do one more full cycle of breath here. After that full cycle of breath, we're going to slowly start to come out. So when you come out, we're going to start to roll back forward onto the abdomen. And then once again, stack up your hands, rest for a pause. At least a full cycle of breath in that pause. And we're going to start the other side. So take your arms out to a T. This time, you're going to bring the left hand in under your shoulder. Start to roll towards your side. And again, you might step this top leg behind. Bring the foot flat or wrap your hand around your back. With or without support for your head. And then I'm going to come out and you're going to stay in that posture for another approximately 3 minutes. And the timer's already started. Stay with it. Keep breathing. Come back to that sense of surrendering into the posture. Thinking here about sadness and grief. So we've all had to let go of our part of our lives, of going out into the world, seeing loved ones, friends, some of us having to give up our businesses, our livelihoods during this time. So all of that can bring up feelings of sadness and grief, right? It's something that we have to move through. And a lot of times what we do is just push our sadness and grief away. Maybe we like to just avoid it. But the tradition tells us that in order to process it, we've got to be with it, feel it, ask for its wisdom, and then we can move through it and release it. Just a few more breath cycles here. Remember, you're always welcome to come out sooner if you need to. Let's take one more full cycle of breath. Letting it out slowly. And then we'll begin to come out of the pose, taking your time. And you're going to rest with your forehead on your arms, staying on your belly. And then let's stay there for a few moments, just feeling that energy flow through the arms and the heart space and the chest. So take a few more moments. We're going to, in a next pose, is going to be using our fists to stimulate some acupressure meridians. There's several that meet up here. Again, this one is going to be a spleen and stomach point. We're going to have our fists right under our body above our hip bones. So if you have sensitive hands, I would say put a blanket down under your abdomen. And then you're going to make your fists, some of you might even want a blanket for your forehead. You're going to put your fists right above those hip bones. So find your pelvic bones, hip bones, whatever you want to call them, and put your fists inside those bones. Again, maybe a blanket for your forehead. And then let your body weight drop. You can also turn your head to the side without the blanket, if that feels better, or forehead on the floor without the blanket, depending on what feels right for you. Great, so I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute for this one, as it can be a little intense, and we're just going to stay with it for a few more moments. So breathe through that intensity if you feel it. That might be an area of stagnant energy. If it becomes too much, feel free to take those hands out and just rest on your belly. Again, spleen, stomach, meridian. Last several breaths. I'm just going to check a time. One more full breath here. And then slowly slide the hands out and pause. And see if you can visualize the flow of energy through that area of the groin. Low, low belly. One more breath. And then slide your hands back, press yourself into tabletop pose. And then we'll just circle the hips around a little bit, just making sure we release any accumulated tension from those couple of poses. Circle the other way. I'm going to come into a child's pose. I'm gonna bring my big toes together, knees wide. I still have the blanket here. And then I'm gonna rest my forehead on the block. Now bring that block all the way to the bridge of your nose, right across the eyebrow center. And you're gonna stay there now for a few cycles. So we're gonna do a minute or two here. So I'm gonna start the timer at a minute. As we do this posture, let the weight of your forehead really drop into the block. Let your hips get heavy as well. And just surrender into this child's pose. We're stimulating a point here on the forehead called Yin Tang. It's good for calming our spirit, good for our nose issues, good for pain. So this point helps us restore calm to our Shen. Also good for insomnia, excessive agitation, restlessness, and irritability. Let's take this one for one more minute. I'm gonna flip the timer over one more time because I don't have a 2-minute timer. I'm just going 1 and a 3. So keep with it, a couple more breaths. So while you're there, last couple of breaths, I'm just setting up for our next posture. All right, last cycle of breath. And then we're going to very slowly, remember every transition is like a slow motion. Start to slide your hands back, slowly bring yourself up out of your child's pose, and we're going to come back into a seated posture. I'm sitting up on my meditation cushion again. A couple of blankets or a pillow would be good. And then we're going to come into a bound angle, or we call butterfly pose in Yin. I like to widen my sit bones apart, and I'm going to slide my feet slightly forward for this one. Now I'm going to try, those of you who are able to stimulate pericardium 6 to find this particular point. Find the crease of your wrist and put 3 fingers on the crease of your wrist. Right where that 3rd finger comes is that point. So it's like 2/3 of the way down your forearm towards your wrist crease. I have bracelets on. I'm going to take them off because I'm going to be sliding my arms underneath my legs so that the ankle bone hits that pericardium point. Okay? Now, if this is too deep of a posture for you, you can sit upright and hold the posture. You can even put your hand on your heart, and then we'll switch in between. You can also just fold forward without holding the points. Those of you who can are going to slide the hands under, okay? So I'm sliding my forearm underneath my shin bone. And the shin bone is going to press on that pericardium point. Now my spine can round here. It's a yin posture. My head is like a bowling ball dropping downward. I'm going to start timer. We're going to do 2 minutes. Those of you who are staying upright are going to hold that point, 3 finger points above the wrist crease. Hand to the heart, because this is pericardium. Close your eyes and breathe. Finding stillness, calming the spirit, the Shen. So I'm going to come back into the deeper expression. This is also good for insomnia, nausea as well. your head get heavier and heavier. Let your shoulders get soft. Pelvis heavy. We're doing one more breath here. And then I'm going to flip the timer and we're going to stay with it for one more minute. Those of you who are doing the hold without folding are going to switch to your other side. Okay, so these points are bilateral. And those of you who are in it might decide you could slide your hands forward a little bit more. So now the ankle bone gets into that point. So now I'm deeper. If that's not appropriate, stay with what works for you. Head heavy. Here we're also stimulating a chain of fascia that goes from our bridge of our nose, up our forehead, around the back of the skull, down our back, and attaching to the top rim of our pelvis. So that whole fascial chain is getting a nice bit of stimulation. That's gallbladder. So a couple more. Looks like our timer has run out. So I'm going to very slowly start to roll myself up. And then when I get to the top, I'm going to pause. If I wish, I could straighten my legs out. Have a breath. Okay, so we're going to take a couple of poses in succession. We're going to go from pigeon, which we call sleeping swan in yin, into shoelace, where we're going to cross our legs. And we're going to be doing particular points during these postures. So on side one of our pigeon, or sleeping swan, we're going to work on urinary bladder 2, right at the points of our eyebrows. So I'm just going to show you the points so that you don't have to worry about it later. Our head will rest. You can do like namaste hands here, Anjali Mudra. So that's the first point, and I'll talk to you about it once we're in it. And then the second point is another stomach point, which is find the pupil of your eye and drop down, and you'll feel like a little ridge. That's like the occipital bone. Go below it. So now you're below your cheekbone, and you're going to use your thumbs to press into that point. This is one of my favorites. So from there, we're going to slide the back leg around into shoelace. So I'll explain that later. Okay, so those of you who can do a pigeon pose are going to come into it from either a down dog or a tabletop. So I'm going to slide my right knee toward my right wrist, and the foot's going to be back on an angle. Now my other leg is straight back. If I find I've got strain in this knee, I'm going to pull in a pillow or a block or a blanket to support my front hip, so my right hip. Those of you who find pigeon, sleeping swan intolerable can be on your back doing a figure 4. We're still opening the same lines of energy here, clasping your hands and trying to be as relaxed as you can. You're just not going to do the acupoints during this particular pose. If you want, you could even let legs come down, then you could do the acupoints if you wanted to. I'll leave that up to you. Okay? So, if you're in the sleeping swan, with or without a prop, you're going to take your thumbs to the center of your eyebrows, right at the beginning point, and let your head drop into your thumbs. We're going to do 1 minute hold here. So these are some shorter holds for yin. We could certainly hold these a lot longer, but I'm doing a very mild yin here today to keep it accessible for beginners or anyone who's never done yoga before, never done yin yoga before. Keep letting your head drop into your thumbs. So this is a tender spot for me. And so let's see. Urinary bladder is good for mental clarity, clear seeing, radiance in the eyes. Kidney and urinary bladder also relate to fear. You think about like a nervous bladder or afraid, these things can be affected. So notice, where you have those tender spots. Is this a tender spot for you? All right, so now we're going to come up and come into our shoelace pose. So take your time, start to walk yourself up. You're going to let yourself drop toward that right hip, okay? And then swing the back leg around. So I'm going to turn to face you so you can see me. So shoelace, my legs are intertwined. And I have my left leg is on top here, okay? So some of you might wish to be up on a prop, blanket, block, pillow to make this more accessible. If you can do it without. And we're gonna stay here for about 1 minute and we're gonna hold large intestine 11. So you're gonna basically like you're giving yourself a hug and you're gonna use your fingers to press right on the outside of your elbow crease. So find your elbow crease and then you're gonna press your fingers right into those elbow creases. Holding here in an upright position. Keep breathing. Only 1 minute, we're almost done, and then we're going to let go of the points in a moment, coming into a forward fold. Last breath. Now slowly release the points, bring your arms in front of you and into a forward fold. Maybe your head could drop. Now those of you who find this leg position not accessible, you would just do a cross leg position and fold like that. Okay, so you have options. You can also be sitting up on those props, which sometimes makes it more accessible. If the folding is not appropriate or comfortable for you, you could certainly just stay up. And then I like to, even if you can reach, press into the center of the balls of your feet. Those are kidney meridian points, grounding, calming. You could even do that as you fold. So we've got another breath or two here, and then we're going to come out, and we'll repeat that on side 2. All right, slowly let go of any points that you might be holding. Come back up to vertical. We're going to lean back, undo the legs, and windshield wiper side to side, just to release any tension in the legs and hips from that posture. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the practice, not too much longer to go. Let's do this on the other side. Adjust my mat. So slide your left knee towards your left wrist. That shin bone can come back on an angle. Take your right leg back. This time we're going for the stomach point. Right below the cheekbone in line with your pupil. You're going to prop up and rest your cheeks right in your thumbs. I'm going to start the timer for 1 minute. Stay with it. Surrender into the posture. Again, stomach meridian, worry, fear, rumination. yourself up. Lean toward your left hip. Swing the right leg around, and we're back in that shoelace position. Remember, you can do a cross leg, you can sit up on props, or you can be without props. All right, so starting here, giving yourself that little hug, and right at the end of your elbow creases, pressing into the muscle there. There could be a little tenderness, and we're gonna hold that for 1 minute. Another large intestine, which is letting go, releasing grudges, helping us move on when we're stuck. Also said to help drain upper body pain, headache, shoulder pain. And allow us to be at ease in the present moment, which can be challenging for us right now. And inviting in a positive outlook for the future. So we let go of what's not serving and inviting in freshness, fresh energy. One more breath. And then we're going to slowly let go of those points. Remember, you can stay here. You can hold those kidney points on the feet, right in the center of the ball of the foot, or you can fold, relaxing the arms, or hold on to those points. So we're going to do 1 more minute. Head is very heavy. And as you hold the posture, it might deepen on its own without force. Just keep breathing, keep softening. One more breath. And then you're going to slowly let go of any points that you're holding. Unfurl. 1 vertebra at a time, coming up. And then go ahead and unwind the legs, windshield wiper the legs. So the next one is for the liver channel, which relates to anger, frustration, irritability. We might all have a little bit of that going on right now as well as we're sheltering in place. So this is going to be a 3-minute hold. We're going to grab a blanket or a pillow to sit on, and putting the point of the pillow forward so that my legs can extend out. Those of you who find this is a lot on your hamstrings, grab 2 more pillows or blankets and slide them under the legs so you have some support. Now the legs don't have to be as wide as I have them here, whatever works for you. All right, you can stay upright, or we're going to start to gradually come into a forward fold. So in the Yin tradition, we're not going to effort and strive to get that deep forward fold. We're going to surrender. So we're going to start to let the body curl downward a little bit at a time. And you might even bring in some support here. So a couple of options, maybe a block under your forehead. A bolster could be very helpful for this pose. Okay, so some of us might put it in front of us, like a pillow. If you're up higher, you could put the bolster up high and put your forehead. Then we're stimulating that yin tang again right here in the forehead, whether we're on a block or the bolster, which is calming for the mind to have that pressure point right between our brow center. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to start our timer for 3 minutes. The liver meridian is going from our toes through the inside the underside of our ribs. We want to make sure we move slowly into it so we're not, shocking our tissue. Ease into the posture. Holding here for 3 minutes. I'm going to have you guys stay. I just want to do a quick time check. All right. I think we're just going to do one more pose after this, and then we'll come into our Shavasana. Stay with a slow, smooth breath. We're over halfway there. Drop in, drop in. Let go of anger, frustration, irritability, control. Just let it all go. Remember, if you find you've gone too deep, you could back out, you could be vertical. If you find the body is releasing, let yourself come deeper into the pose, but do so slowly. Never force yourself beyond what the body is ready for. Otherwise, we create more tightness in the tissue. The tissue is going to kind of contract in an effort to protect us rather than soften and release. Last couple breaths. Let's take one more full cycle of breath here. After completing your exhale, slow motion, start to walk yourself back up. Take your time, and once you get up to vertical, have a pause, have a breath. And then we'll use our hands to lift the knees and just come seated for a moment so I can show you the next points. We're going to be coming into a supported bridge on a block or a bolster and working some kidney points. So we're going to find our collarbones. And then from your inner collarbone, drop down into that little depression right under the collarbone. This is a kidney point. So we're going to be pressing there on kidney 27 while we're in supported bridge. Then we're going to drop down under the next rib and press. So that would be kidney 26, and then we're going to drop down again under the next depression for kidney 25. Again, don't worry, this whole area, wherever you're doing it, is going to be helpful for releasing stuck energy, but go into the depressions, okay? So let's go ahead and come into this pose. To do so, we're going to first come on our backs. And then once you're on your back, you're going to slide your block into place. Okay? So I'm coming down and I'm going to lift my hips, slide the block in. Now I might want to put that block on level 2, that's fine too. It gives me a little bit more of a back bend here into the stomach meridian, front of the body. I'm going to show it on the lower point today. You could also straighten your legs out if you want to get more opening into that front body, opening up our hip flexors. I'm going to show it with knees bent, but if you wish, that is an option. Go ahead and find the center collarbone and drop down right under the collarbone and hold that kidney point. and deep breaths. Now, if your arms are like fatiguing here, you could always stick pillows under your arms. I'm going to be okay without, but know that you could do that if you wish. So kidney points really help ground us. The kidneys relate to the roots of our body. So we anchor into the earth for grounding and nourishment. Breathing here. I'm not going to do a timer on this one, so I'm just going to hold each of these for a few moments. Breathing into the space where your fingers are. Again, relating to the emotional quality of fear and anxiety. We're going to slowly release the points, relax your arms for a breath. Now, from that point, find that first one again, right under the collarbone, go over a bone and then into the next depression. And then we're going to hold that one for a few breaths. Again, noticing where you have tenderness, soreness. If you feel any pressure in your low back, just press in your feet a moment. Tip your tailbone forward, and then you'll create more length in your lower back. Eyes could be closed if you're comfortable. Let's do one more breath on this point. And then slowly release. Let the arms come down. Relax, breathe. Okay, last point. So find the collarbone, drop down into the first depression, second depression, and now third. So I'm down a little bit lower in the chest. Press into those points. If you can't find it, you can always repeat one of the first two. That's fine too. Hold and breathe. Our kidney energy also relates to our life force, our Jing, our energy reserves. So when the kidney energy is depleted, we might also find ourselves being exhausted, burned out, fatigued, lack of motivation. So getting that kidney energy flowing can help us not be so burned out. So we've got that earth energy that supports us. So when we think about the roots of a plant, if the root isn't strong, then what happens? Then that plant is not grounded. It lacks vitality. Release the points. Relax your arms. Imagine energy flowing through that whole area of the center of your chest. Releasing fear. Now lift your hips, slide your block out of the way, coming down. Maybe windshield wipers. Let go of that little back bend. And then we're going to bring the knees into the chest. Coming into a happy baby pose. So here we might just hold behind the legs. Those of you who can reach your feet, find that point between the two balls of the feet. That's a kidney point as well for fear. And then press into those points on the feet and press the feet a little bit into the hands. And that'll help you hold it in place. Keep your tailbone heavy. Relax Relax your shoulders. Breathing here. So this helps us get all of that excessive energy out of the head, brings it all the way down, grounds us into our feet. So kidney meridian begins here, right in this point in our feet. This is a great point to massage before bed, helping to ground our energy. Okay, go ahead and release that. Knees to chest one more time, and we'll set up for Shavasana. So for Shavasana, if you're comfortable, we could do just a flat on your back, simple Shavasana. So we can really feel the flow of energy through the body. But if you feel tenderness in your lower back, or if you have rounded shoulders, you could bring in some props. So maybe a blanket under your head. Maybe a blanket under the backs of your knees. Cover up if you're cold. Eye pillow, always nice. So get settled and just notice the whole body now. We've stimulated the different meridians, creating more flow of our chi, our prana through our bodies. We've released worry, fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, irritability, letting go of grudges, and what no longer serves us. So we can invite in hopefulness, positive, fresh energy for our future. What is it that we imagine our world to be like on the other side? Can we hold hope for a positive change in our worlds? And then letting go into the cradle of the earth. So let the earth hold you. I'm going to be coming up. I want you to stay in your Shavasana. A few more moments. So continue to let yourself relax into the ground, into the earth. So the earth is yin energy. The sun is yang energy. So let the yin energy of the earth rise up into your being to nourish you, support you. As you rest, a little reading from Jeff Foster. This is called An Embraceable Mess. You are a complete mess, my friend, unable to be mended. The time for solutions has passed. Yet stay close, breathe. This is not the end. Come out of all of your futures. No time for futures now. Look, you are an embraceable mess. A mess that is holy to its very core. You were always alive too, inquisitive, born with a heart broken open to life. They tried to close it, but it would never close. You wouldn't fit in, you couldn't conform. You could never squeeze yourself into their ideal of perfection. The perfect thoughts and feelings, the right way to be, the dance they told you to dance. Your heart was always too big. Let everything flood in now, give up, fall apart, break down. Let the old dreams of yourself die a beautiful death. Let all of the lost fragments find safety in your loving arms. And in your falling, find yourself. And in your breaking, breathe. And all the creatures and all the forgotten kingdoms are bowing to you now. Their Savior, their love. All of the creatures in all the forgotten kingdoms are bowing to you now. Their Savior, their love. Now, for the sake of video time, we're going to be coming out. If you wish to stay longer in your Shavasana, stay there, listen to the final part of practice, and then come up when you're ready and finish with these last two acupoints. So the next two that we're going to do are just seated here. We're going to stimulate a point, conception vessel 17, in the center of our chest. So right in the center of your sternum, you can find your pec line. There's a little depression right along that center line of your chest. We're going to press there with your right hand, and you can use like 3 fingers in that little depression. And then the other one is going to go in the center of your brow. So this is a governing vessel. We're going to do both of those points at the same time. Holding here, breathing. So this is often a tender spot between the chest, center of the chest. It's usually tender in those of us who are downhearted, depressed, or sad, lowered in our spirits. Breathing here. So when we're depressed and cloud, we tend to collapse and pull that point back. So keep up in a nice tall spine. And then the second point, the governing vessel between the eyebrow, said to bring peace and tranquility into our bodies, calms the mind. Another good point for anxiety, insomnia, headache. Now we're going to very slowly release the points and bring your hands together into your Anjali Mudra. And we're going to put the thumbs, the knuckles of the thumbs, right into that point again. So snuggle your thumbs in between your chest, press in, press up, and hold. Sea of tranquility. We're going to inhale, allow the chest to lift, and exhale, bow toward our heart and our hands. And then slowly we'll lift the gaze, slowly release the point, and release your hands. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you found this practice healing on many levels, bringing you into emotional well-being and balance. So I wish you well, I wish you health, I wish you peace. Namaste. Thank you so much.